Hi, you're listening to Bold Works, the space where women connect, share stories, laugh, and tell the messy truth about careers. We are here to figure out how to survive the chaos of work without pretending it's all fine. Spoiler, it's not, but together it works. Hi, welcome to Bold Works. My name is Fernanda. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing how do we transition to a managerial role. As some of us might know, this is usually seen as a promotion. The reality is that the set of skills that you need to be a good manager are quite different from your usual performance on the regular role that you were doing before. Um, it's interesting to understand those set of skills that you need to develop, the tools that you can make use to, and create a support network for this transition while you're becoming a manager. Understand how community can serve you, but also relevant to understand how success will be measured, and not just for you, but for the team that you're leading and also for the company. So I invite you all to have a nice chat and conversation with me and with Renee Haim. She's a former colleague of mine, and together we will unpack what was her own transition and her own path of becoming a manager, what were her learnings, her experience, her realities, and hoping that this can help people out there to figure out their own way on becoming a manager. Thank you so much for being here with me, for listening, subscribing, liking, comment, and sharing. And let's see what else we can figure out together about this interesting topic. Thank you so much. Until the next one. Hi, Renee. Welcome to Bold Works.
Thank you. Hello, hello.
So, Renee, let me start with an icebreaker. Maybe you have seen it in some previous episodes, but can
Okay.
you describe yourself in 2 words?
Yes. Let's see. Yeah, I would go for energetic, and I would go for kind of having like very clear communication, a lot of communication. There's not one word. I need to find the exact one, but it would be something on communication.
I agree with you. So I usually take these two inputs to also share with people how and if I recognize them, and of course I recognize them. Renee, it's a former colleague of mine, and when I joined this company, when I saw her, I was sure she was the HR girl because she was everywhere. She knew everyone. She was on top of everything, organizing, orchestrating, guiding. Let's move here, move there. Um, so I do agree. Like those two are really, really you. Renee, where are you from? Where do you live? What do you do?
I'm a Dutch person. I'm from the south originally, from Brabant, if you have any Dutch listeners. And about, I don't know how many years, maybe 13 years ago, I moved to Amsterdam to study initially. And then I built up my life here, and I'm in Amsterdam North now.
And what do you do? Where do you work?
So I think for the last, what is it, like 7 to 8 years, I've kind of worked in project management. I've worked at 3 different companies, and they were all creative agencies. So I'm a bit in the advertising and e-commerce space, but I'm soon starting a new job, which is at an event agency.
So it's also like really related to your characteristics and descriptive words, right? Like it's really about passion, people, moving, dynamic,
Yeah,
and
I'd
but
love
on
to
the
be
other side.
also in super high energetic environments, or like high energy environments.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the reason why I invited to discuss today here something that I really believe this is a really interesting topic for women, because I see more and more friends and colleagues and people in my network around women that they wanna evolve in their roles. So they are trying to figure out, they're ambitious, right? They want to figure out, okay, what's the next step? what's my next thing to do. And for some of them, the more organic way to grow, sometimes it's like becoming a manager, so like this promotion.
Mhm.
uh, and I've been thinking a lot about it because I also went through one of those myself, and I was thinking like, okay, how did I feel? What changed in me? Why it became like a bit more complex?
Mhm.
And I thought about asking you because you have also some experience in that, and you're also going to start a role with something in this direction. So maybe can you share with us how you started your journey in this, like, okay, from being project manager to doing this transition?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Maybe it's good to explain what the transition for me was. So for me, I had been working for 4 years as a project manager within the same agency. And then the promotion was offered to me to become head of project managers, which was the lead of that team, the team that I was part of before. So that is the situation. Now, what was the question? Sorry.
It was more like asking how how did your journey started, because what I think, this is a, I'm gonna put my thesis out there.
Yeah, sure.
You either want a promotion, so you're gonna grow, you're searching for growth, or
Hmm.
maybe you're also appeal in that like specific direction, like I wanna manage people.
Hmm.
So how was your first hook with the role? I'm gonna start with that question first.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just started that I was kind of contacted and asked to take that role. So before that, I hadn't considered it. I
Oh.
was very focused on just becoming more senior, and that was the focus of my growth in that sense. So my initial focus was to become a better, more advanced project manager. And then the discussions were opened up, and then I kind of started to think. And what I liked about kind of this consideration is that I started to wonder, like, would this be something for me? Would this be like a very interesting, slightly different path? And what I liked about that situation is I was given the opportunity to explore that in a company that I knew, with people that I knew, with processes that I knew. So it was a slightly more safe experiment, or like a tryout, for me to practice that. And that was, I think, one of the reasons that I felt I should, take the opportunity, because it was a good place for me to practice and to figure out whether or not this was the right step for me.
And with that in mind, right, like with this expectation that you created, how do you see it afterwards? Like, did you accomplish what the goal of the learning, like in a good way?
Yeah, I definitely accomplished it, I would say, because that, I think, a big part of me accomplishing it was just to be there and to get the experience. That in itself
Sure.
was kind of, it is the accomplishment. Now, in my case, I was able to kind of understand much better what it means to be a manager, at least to be a manager within the environments that I'm used to. So within these fast paced agencies. And that just gave me a lot of knowledge and experience. And of course, now, as I said, I'm just starting a new job. It will be the same job. So it's again the management position. So
Oh,
I'm
excellent.
pursuing my career now in that direction.
um how do you, like, I'm asking you, but you
Sure.
can
Yeah.
whenever
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want change it. Nowadays, because of course, like you already evaluated, like, okay, do I really want to go in this direction? What are
Yeah.
the things that you have used on your favor, like tooling mechanisms, I don't know, like a structure that could support you? Because maybe for someone out there that they are like doubting, and that's the idea, right? At the end, it's like to share your own experience so people can relate and say like, okay, how can I manage my own?
Yeah.
What were like the things that you helped yourself with, or maybe the ones that you missed, or yeah, so just to help others.
And then it is about how I kind of manage that transition and which tools and support system I used.
Exactly, because oh, sorry.
No.
No, what I was thinking is, like, for me, my clear thesis of all of this topic is that it's not like a promotion just being a manager. It's a transition in your career.
Yeah.
It's a different set of skills. So what I am, but that's what I think, and maybe that's what I want people to reflect. Yeah.
I definitely recognize that, because when you are kind of responsible for your projects alone, you can just work super, super, super hard, and then maybe even harder. And then, I mean, if you have the skills, obviously, then likely it's you will get close to success. Of course, there are always other factors, but what I'm trying to say is that when before I was a manager, sometimes if I just put in more effort, then naturally the results will be better.
Yeah.
And I think when I became a manager, when you start to, well, when your output is through a team and when a big part of your responsibilities is making decisions that will impact, other team members, you're playing in a different layer, let's say, and that is very different. I think it also scared me. I think a little bit at the beginning that yeah, my impact was broader and bigger and affected more people, and therefore yeah, you feel the pressure to do well.
Yeah.
Or at least that is what I experienced. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I know, I agree. And I also think that you start within this new layer that you are like playing in, you also start understanding different things, like about how people work, and about how you have to develop certain skills that are going to help you to understand them better
Yeah,
than not just delivering. Because
yeah,
I think that's like the right shift, right, between delivering and oof, understanding, okay, how this specific person in this specific environment can thrive more.
yeah, yeah. I really recognize that it's yeah, even like I think anything about communication, strategic communication, and yeah, and just the part that you described is super valid.
Yeah.
So
But
it's
going
yeah,
back to the question,
yeah. So what were the things that really helped me in that transition? I think quite some things. I think to start with, I was super lucky, and you might still remember this. That exactly when I signed, this was in May. Also, the leadership course started.
yes.
This was not just for me. This was for me and all my peers that were in similar leadership position in the companies. There were 7 of us, and this was already planned months and months in advance. But exactly the month that I signed, this was starting, and this was a 6-day leadership program, spread out over a few months. It was very intense, and I was able to get a lot from that. Um, there was a big part of this is that we became a team. So the 7 of us,
Yeah.
we went there, we were sharing, we were practicing, we were opening up. And this, I think, was the start of us working as a team. Even
Yeah.
though before, already a lot of people, they were already in their positions. So we already had quite some managers in the company. But this was the moment where we kind of locked in with each other and became the safe space. So this was, I think, a very big
Yeah.
thing that I was kind of fortunate enough to get right at my start, because I know
Yeah.
some others, they have definitely struggled before in finding a bit feeling lonely or isolated or not know who to go to with certain challenges. So that, I think, is one. This is more about peers. Finding like peers that you can open up with, because you can't always go to your manager and you can't always go
Yeah.
to the people that you manage for certain sensitivities around topics. Now, a second thing that is, I would say, the relationship with your manager. So um, of course, you were my manager at the time, and I think we had a really good relationship, and I think you were
Yeah.
also a type of manager that I could really learn from, because I think there are different types and there are different preferences, of course. But I think if you're able to build like a trustworthy or like a relationship with a lot of trust with your manager, it helps a lot. And that is because in the end they need to support and like truly support and back your work, and that, at least for me, gives me a big feeling of safety, that I know that my superior or my senior will back me up in
Yeah.
case anything is gonna explode. I have more. I'm not sure if I should continue
Yeah,
listing.
sure. Yeah.
So for me personally, I'm also big on frameworks. So
Yep.
that is, yeah, I love it. That it have a lot of theory. Actually, we also learned a lot in that course that I was just mentioning, the leadership course, about radical candor, about some communication models. For me, that also gives me some tools. In Dutch you would say kind of the handvatten, but also I think it's a confidence thing that I can use that theory and know it's kind of a very research methodology.
Yep.
So that's another thing that I like to try if I'm trying to practice something that I'm less experienced in, that I maybe research some methods that I could potentially use. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, I think those are the three main ones. I'm sure there's more that will come up throughout the conversation.
And I'm sure at the end, there are gazillion things, like maybe a video that really triggers something, like a phrase from someone,
Mhm.
like a coffee with someone. Like maybe I also know that for some people, their parents,
Oh yeah.
because they tend to execute some also like this managerial role, so they also have a really heavy say in your own expectation of the role.
Mhm.
So I sorry.
I wanted to say I recognize that for sure, just from friends. Um, I coincidentally, I was laughing about this not too long ago. I have a lot of friends who did completely different studies, but are now project managers in the creative and cultural fields.
Oh wow.
And I've known like for years, but somehow, some way, we it ended up in a similar place. So I have quite some people who understand what I am dealing with. Maybe not so much the management role, so that transition, maybe not so much, but also just before. I kind of recognize also that talking to people outside of the company can be really healthy. To take a step
Exactly.
back, to get the perspective, just I think, yeah, it has a very healthy lens on certain situations.
Yeah, and maybe I'm gonna use this specific one to jump to a question that I planned like maybe for a bit later. But what do you think about the role of community when it comes to like this leadership transition thing? Because of course, like it's not just about women, right? Like it, anyone can be a manager. I do recognize that for some people that I know, when they have like male manager roles, it's a really different experience. That myself, that was the case. I never had like a manager, like a female manager with a style that I was like, okay, oof, I am happy with this. I can grow. I feel challenged, like the nice balance. I was always like dealing with, I don't know, like childish managers, like misbehaving. I felt like a mommy around them. And at the end, that's not the type of leadership style that you want to be. You don't want to
Mhm,
like
mhm.
be the mother of the office. Um, how was it for you? How is this community? How did you? Because you already mentioned your peers. How was it growing with them? What do you think about that?
So yeah, I think that was really awesome. Again, I would kind of highly encourage for people to, if they're able to kind of find those people around them. Now, in my case, I mentioned it. We were seven in total, and we worked together for a bit over a year. And there were kind of half male, half female. So that was very cool. Now, um, yeah, I can tell you like a little story about personality maybe later, and when it comes more, yeah, about leadership personality. But what we could really see also because we again explored so extensively on this course is that everyone's leadership style is super different, and everybody's challenges are also very different. And I don't mean work wise, but like kind of personal challenges with being a manager. And what I saw, if you talk about gender, is that it's maybe some parts were more expected, where generally I think women were maybe having some challenges that were overlapping, and men also maybe had some more overlapping challenges. However, again, they were also super different. So there
Yeah.
were also some, at some point, we had to come up with an exercise for each other that would really challenge the part that you wanted to develop as a manager. And those exercises, they were so unique. And the cool part was you could really see that individual struggle to execute. Whereas I would sometimes think, oh, that would be so easy. I would immediately do this, and that. Because again, for me, that might even have been a strength.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, it just showed me that every manager is so different from one another. And when you're finding a support system, that's even great, right?
Yeah.
Because they might find your challenge very easy, so they're able to give kind of very direct advice. Oh, just do this, and don't overthink. Or they might say something else, but just advice from a different perspective, because they look at the situation very differently.
Yeah, I agree with you. In some cases, so I was in a previous episode that was interviewing someone, and we were discussing about what was the relevance of community in her case. And she mentioned, well, for me, it's about how to reduce learning curve, for instance, or how to know how they fought the fights that I was fighting in my own company,
Mhm.
right? Like how to this knowledge sharing.
Yeah,
So in the case of managing people, I think it's the same. The more you discuss openly your own challenges, I think the more you can learn from others,
yeah,
um like those shortcuts perspective. I agree with you.
yeah. And the cool thing is, what I also start to see, sometimes when you ask for help and someone is spending some time on that, you feel very conscious that you've asked them a favor. But the more everyone dares to use and rely on this system, the the more balanced it feels.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of, at the beginning, when I was like, oh, can someone maybe practice this difficult conversation with me? I felt very conscious again that they were making an effort to sit with me, to invest their time for
Yeah.
something that didn't benefit them. But the more I could give that back, whether either to this colleague or maybe another one in our little community, like the more, yeah, I think the better everything started to feel.
I agree with you. It's more even, it's more balanced, and then that's also what helps communities work. When it's like a symbiosis, like we
Yeah,
gain together. Yeah. Another question that I wanted to ask you. So you mentioned frameworks, and one of the things. So when I recall, when I was like also learning how to be a manager, and I was thinking like, I need to learn from someone. It cannot be that I am the first one in this world.
mhm, mhm.
Um, and one of the things that I encounter, it's like there is so much information around. Maybe you are not aware what do you need to ask, right? Because you mentioned radical candor. There's even a book and so on, but if I am a new manager and you mentioned that, I'm gonna feel like, oh my god, should I already know that? Am I late to the party? Um, and that wasn't my feeling in that moment. Then I understood that you're always learning. So this is like a constant iteration of, because you are not the same one. The company where you're going to start, it's not the same one, and they won't have the same challenges as before. You just keep developing those skills. um how was your journey in finding data, like podcast, I don't know, books? How was it? Maybe that can also like inspire others.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think I got it from different places. And if I think back of it, so as I mentioned, so in the course, I got some models and some frameworks. And then I also recognize it's not that I started applying all of them, because some of them, yeah, they just don't feel right to you. So there's also, yeah, there's still some, yeah, like a personal preference in what really fits with your way of working.
Yeah.
So that's, I think you're never late to the party, because there are some companies that swear by one and other companies hate that specific one. So it's a company style, it's a personal style, um, but you get across these models, in my experiences, in your professional life. I remember at some point, also the company where we worked at, they started to share, hey, if we work with framework, we would like to do it with the OOPS model. And then we got a training around the OOPS model. I really like that model. So from that moment, I was kind of, because giving feedback can be a bit scary, and sometimes I tell it, but I do it very fast. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna, do the OOPS model. I'm gonna take the pause, which is what the P stands for. So that was another way where I picked up a model that I now use a lot still because I like it. Then I have always worked with clients, and then your clients, they all use different types of models, different types of
Yeah.
whatever. Then the ones that I like, I started to bring in also from my management position at the time. I started to even bring in and
Yeah.
share with my whole team. Again, it was always optional, but maybe as a recommendation to start using. And maybe a little less, but exceptionally, even I was so excited. I started to tell my friends about this one model that I learned, or I got something back. This is not so often, but yeah, generally, I think I learned them for a big part kind of coincidentally by being in the right places and picking up and maybe asking the right question, of course, about how they would handle a situation. But yeah, and of course, books. Maybe I'm starting to feel a bit lazy, but maybe I also get them a lot on recommendation. At some point, I was intrigued to learn more about negotiation.
Yeah.
Then I went to the sales team. I went to Martijn. So I know, okay, this guy is very talented in negotiating. No, Martijn in this case. What book do you recommend? And I would do the same with other topics. So I think I am mostly using the network to know what others are doing, and that is that I will then start practicing myself to see if I can make it my own.
I fully agree, and I think it's about being effective, right? More than it's not about how hard or how long will the knowledge take to get to you. The other way around, like if you can get the shortcut and like see if that works for you, and if not, you just throw it away. I
Yeah,
think that's really smart. But what I really want to like emphasize is the amount of curiosity that you have to
yeah,
have.
yeah,
So for me, when it comes to managing people, it's about being an active listener as much as you can, because of course, like the colleague of your friend that came to the party and you start discussing and asking the right question, and what do you do? Maybe he's working in, like, I don't know, food engineering, whatever, which is far, far, far away from you, but they're also humans. So you can just ask, in that sensitivity that you get, I think that's like the level of seniority when it comes to managing like teams and people.
yeah. And if you can, in your management position, the more you can create a space of knowledge sharing, the more you activate the team members that you manage also to share these type of insights. And
Yeah.
that's another community on its own. So um, yeah, that's interesting. And at some point you have just a lot of channels that are all fueling you with information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes you also have to be really selective.
Of
And
course.
it's like, this is a lot. I can't do everything at the same time. So baby steps.
Yes. I'm not the best at that, but yes.
I was going to ask you, because I have my notes, and um if you could like take a step back out of you, if you would see a Rene from maybe 3 years ago and the Rene that you see nowadays, what would you say are the changes that you recognize on yourself with this change of transition and role within your professional life?
Let's see. I think I got better at um, well, the information is kind of coming to me. I am thinking of two things. At They go hand in hand. I think it's try when I can not to rush and to look at the big picture. So I think this comes with both experience as well as this transition to a management position where there's often so much impacting something else. So I've had the experience where For one of my team members, a certain decision would have been so obvious, but I took another one just because there were so many things connecting to that decision. So I think through the experience I've had, I kind of naturally learned to zoom out more and to look at more connections, to look at things farther in the future. And that has helped me to slow down.
Yeah.
That I think is one of the biggest transition, because maybe I was a bit the opposite before, always like very close up in the work and always, as I said, just working harder and then harder and faster, hoping to achieve more. Yeah.
It's super interesting. I do agree with you that those skills, and what's really interesting is you just realize that you have them while you're doing stuff. So
Mm.
when you expose yourself, or when you're being exposed to apply some stuff, that's when you recognize, like, oh, okay, I am getting perspective, I'm taking like few steps back, I am
Yeah.
yeah, you're much more conscious
Yes.
while doing it.
Yeah. And I had to think of how I also recognized it when I still worked with a lot of team members, and I guided them. I was also involved with escalations, of course. And then sometimes when they would share with me, oh, I think this is a good idea. In some cases, I would think like, oh yeah, in the past, I would have also thought that was a good idea. But now we're just going to say no. Very often it comes down to saying no, or at least in in my experience in an agency life. But that's just a silly example. So sometimes I kind of see how in the past I would have also said yes, just
Yeah.
because I maybe had promised it in the past, and that's a behavior that I had seen quite a lot with some of my team members. Um, and that you just kind of learn from experience that you burn yourself up if you don't,
Yeah.
change it, even if you have to go back on your word.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. um One more question that I have for you is, let me see. You were mentioning leadership styles and personalities, and so maybe can you do you have like a funny memory that where you recognize, like, oh, well, that's a really different, because I can also see that you see other peers. That's also like the rich part about having peers. So maybe, when did you recognize like these huge gaps or differences between like a leadership style in your team?
Yes, so I think that this is something that is definitely interesting to share. And what is to me a bit funny was what I actually took from the course. So this is a little bit the essence. Now, when, as I said, it was 6 days with 3 overnight stays, so it was very intense, very intimate, also to share that all with your colleagues. Um, but when I went there, I was expecting this leadership 101. I thought, indeed, like, these are the frameworks, these are the models, these are the books, you do you. But what I learned, and this is so basic, but therefore so powerful, and that is what I find funny. I learned that, and this is, I think, as I said, like the kind of the conclusion of the course is that in order to be a good leader, you need to be able to lead yourself. Now, in that, what it also means is that who you are as a person is also just who you are as a leader. That means that your strengths, personal strengths, are visible in how you lead others. But the same goes for your opportunity areas or for your improvement areas.
Yeah.
That is where you will, or where you might struggle the most, being a leader. Now, I think in my case, to kind of make that a bit tangible, is that I am a very energetic person. So usually it's very easy for me to get people moving, to do everything together, to create that momentum. That just comes so natural. And there are other peers that were like, oh, Renee, like, what can I maybe practice more to achieve that? Um, and then there's what I kind of learn and I'm still working on today is kind of self empathy. How to also in stressful moments check in with yourself much more, because that is an example that I would love to set, and I'm not there yet. I wouldn't say I'm a role model when it comes to that. And now I kind of understand by understanding myself better, my professional self better, that if I invest my time there, naturally it will make me a better leader, because
Yeah.
I will be a better example in that part. So this is something about kind of the course what I really liked, and I, of course, I won't share about others, but generally I could also see others going through that kind of discovery journey where they kind of just really, really went inwards. So it was very personal to then understand where, as a leader, probably you have to put some focus and maybe take inspiration from others. And a big one was also, you can also delegate this part. Not always, but that was, of course, the smart trick. Like, if you know as a leader that that is not your strong suit, whatever it is, maybe get someone on board.
Yeah.
If it is, self empathy, maybe there's someone else that can, check, do some extra checks or whatever it is. Or if it is like being that motivational factor, easily put someone else to the task. But of course, in the essence, also develop it yourself. It would be cool. But it's about having that awareness and then using that to your advantage.
I agree with you. I think that it's really weird, right? Because there's no, until now, or at least not in my career, or I haven't experienced it myself, but like a school for managers.
Mm-hmm,
So you don't have like this reference. So you have to really understand what are like those skills that you, in your case, you're missing,
mm-hmm,
and try to polish them a bit. So it really goes again to understanding what's in you, what do
mm-hmm,
you bring to the table, what you're lagging behind,
mm-hmm,
and understand what's going to be the impact to your team also, because I think like some things are more urgent than others. So I think as a manager, or like in this transition, I would also like encourage everyone to have like much more compassion
mm-hmm.
on the changes that they are doing, because
Yeah.
changing yourself, what you just mentioned, it's you have to change your own behavior. So you have
Mm-hmm,
to be aware. It's a double layer of exercise in your brain on like, oh, am I doing this, like, is this reply to this email 11 p.m. really needed?
mm-hmm,
No, it's not. So just close your laptop, because then people might see that you're working over hours, and
mm-hmm.
then they might think that that's expected from them. And
Exactly.
maybe you are don't doing, those like implications of nonverbal communication are also like quite relevant when you're a manager.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I will share one example that I really liked. So there was this person also on the course that experienced difficulty with asking for help. So we had designed a whole exercise around this person to practice asking for help. There we had he was blindfolded, and we hit a tennis ball in the room, and he had to find it. But we also didn't explain the exercise. So he also had to be, okay, what do I have to do now? So it came down to a lot of proactivity and a lot of asking for help to complete
Oh
the assignment.
wow.
And again, everyone's assignment was completely different. Mine had nothing of these factors. And that was one, again, I am more comfortable asking for help. So it was for me also so, and this person, he's super confident. Like it's a super confident person. But for me to witness him struggling with that exercise, because this is apparently the thing also as a leader that he, or as a person and as a manager, that he just found more difficult. That just is so interesting and just shows me that it can be anything with any person. Yeah, so that is, I think, for anyone also going into a manager role, I think that would be kind of my biggest advice, and also was my biggest learning, that you are still in the middle of that all. So the better you understand yourself and in relation to others, and with the support of others, you can also, of course, ask for a lot of feedback. How do you perceive me? Because there could be, of course, a discrepancy in who you think you are versus how you are perceived. But yeah, have yourself in the middle of it all, because self-conscious will get you far, I think.
Yeah, no, fully agree. um Renee, is there something else that you would like to share about like this journey, about your, because you already gave us like really interesting pieces of advice. So
Mhm,
one, a peering system. Two, reach out frameworks. There's something out there that can suit you, that can like ease up the learning curve of like doing all of these new developing this new set of skills. You
mhm,
mentioned if you can find the space within the current place where you are, to create community also in between them, right? Like not just the peering system of like mirroring, but actively being support for each other. Something else that you would like to share?
I have one topic that I think is relevant. It is not on community, it's just on the transition itself. I think there was one thing that I misjudged. That's, I don't know. Potentially, it is relevant for some people going through this. In my experience, and I don't know how universal this experience is. When I, like took the management role, I thought the vast majority of my focus was going to be on the team, on managing them, on guiding them, on building that community. And I think I maybe underestimated a bit how much broader a management role is. I think in this case, what I experienced is that it's obviously also kind of a lot of collaborating with the MT or an extended MT or any type of higher team. And in many cases, they want different things than maybe what your team is asking from you in the moment. And to find yourself kind of a bit in conflict there, that was definitely a challenge that I faced, quite sometimes, and to make very hard decisions that will upset some stakeholders. I think that that's very part, again, in my experience of being a manager. And I think the second thing that I did enjoy a lot, it was that cross department collaboration, because all of a sudden you oversee some part, an important part within a system.
Yeah.
So it's bigger than what you were doing before and what you were overseeing before. In my case, again, I was working very closely with sales, working very closely with development, with quality, even with HR, in how we had to structure the operations of the company. So yeah, I kind of learned by doing that. Just the responsibility were a lot bigger than managing a team, and I think that's maybe relevant to share, because I think that is the case in many cases. Is my assumption.
I feel, yeah, yeah, I recognize that also. You, what's really interesting about these roles, even when you like check the role description, it's everything. It's everything and nothing at the same time.
Mhm.
So you have to be in charge of the results of like a cross-functional things suddenly. So it's not just about you, what your experience and knowledge, but you're also accountable for the delivery of the other there, not
Mhm.
directly but indirectly.
Mhm.
So this, i I really recognize that, and I think in some many cases that's managers or people, they tend to prioritize because they can't focus on anything, on everything at the same time.
Mhm.
And sometimes people tend to just prioritize maybe results over people, over the communication, over like the set of like figuring out themselves, because it's a really, it's a hard working thing,
Mhm.
reaching like a good port at the end. No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
So, Renee, thank you so much. I am really excited because, like, the team that's gonna get you as their new manager, they're gonna have so much fun. You're gonna help them a lot. I am sure you're gonna help to make their lives much more efficient, but also with much more meaning and impact. So, because that's
I
also
hope
something that,
so.
yeah,
That would be an amazing goal if I can
yeah.
achieve that over time.
Rene, thank you so much for your time, for your knowledge, for your wisdom, your story, and I'll see you around.
Yes. Bye bye.